We're now on Daf Lamed Daled Amud Beis, and we're on the third line. Now, in order to understand the question that Reish Lakish is going to raise to his Rebbe Rabbi Yochanan or his Talmud Chaver, it says in the Mishnah, "V'kulam shekiblu," which means that if someone is not a qualified Kohen, for example, maybe he's a Kohen Balmum, or perhaps he's not even a Kohen at all, and he receives the dam. So then the halacha is that if there's still blood spurting out of the neck of the behemah, of the carbon, then although that dam cannot be used because it was received by an unqualified Kohen, but nevertheless you can go back and get a Kohen who's kosher to receive the dam and then do the zrika. So Rabbi Yochanan was asked the following question: Posel ma'u sheyasa shirayim. Okay, the word shirayim here is a little bit misleading, because normally shirayim means the leftover dam that's poured on the Yisod HaMizbech. That's not what it means here in this context. Here, shirayim means that it's posel. So if you have a Kabbalas Hadam on behalf of a Kohen posel, and he went ahead and he took that dam and he put it on the Mizbeach, can you repeat the dam by the Avodas Hadam by taking dam from the dam hanefesh from the neck of the animal? Amalei Rabbi Yochanan says, "Ein osim shirayim ela chutz zman v'chutz koma." Hoil umeratzel lepigul. So what was Rabbi Yochanan's response to Reish Lakish? That if a Kohen has a machshava during the avoda of either chutz zman or chutz komo, that passes the carbon. But in a case of a posel, a Kohen who's not posel, it's nothing. Just want to make sure I got that right. Just 1 second. Okay, a disqualified person who threw the blood. Oh, here it is. He says an invalid zrika, which is performed by a disqualified Kohen, accomplishes nothing, has no legal significance. And therefore, we don't call the dam that's left in the neck of the animal, of course, we're talking about dam hanefesh, we don't consider it to be shirayim, which is completely excluded. And therefore, the avodas hadam could be repeated with that dam hanefesh that's left in the neck of the animal. But in the case of a Kohen who had a machshav of chutz zman or chutz komo, the zrika accomplishes something. It makes it pigul. It's counterintuitive because it accomplishes making it pigul. Therefore, the remaining lifeblood is considered shirayim, meaning it can't be used. It's very funny because you would have said that if it makes it pigul, it's even on a lower level. No, because it accomplishes making it pigul, therefore it registers as a zrika, such that now you can't repeat the zrika by going back to the neck of the animal. Rav Zvid Masni Hachi. However, Rav Zvid had a slightly different transmission of this Shakal V'Tari Boy Minei Reish Lakish from Rabbi Yochanan Kos Posel Mal Sheyasa Shirayim. What happens if he receives the dam in a kos posel. He says, let's say the kos, the receptacle holding on to dam, was taken outside of the migdash, and therefore becomes posel with the psul of yotze. Now the Kohen takes the dam back into the azara and throws it on the mizbeach. Now, in effect, that zrika doesn't register anything. Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan, like in an amazed voice, he says back to Reish Lakish, "Posel gufe mai svirlach." You didn't ask me the question according to this girsa about a disqualified Kohen who threw the blood. In other words, apparently you knew the answer to that question. You didn't ask it. Is a posel mashve shirayim. So apparently you were of the opinion that if a disqualified Kohen throws the dam, then the rest of the dam hanefesh is called shirayim. It cannot be used. It's kos posel nami mashve shirayim. Why didn't you draw the conclusion that so too, if the dam was taken out of the azor and then brought back in, then the dam that remains in the neck of the animal, the lifeblood, is also considered shirayim. But posel lo mashvi shirayim. If, on the other hand, you were of the opinion, and that's why you didn't ask the question, that it's simple and straightforward, that a posel does not create a psul in the remaining dam hanefesh in the animal's neck, then kos posel nami lo mashvi shirayim. So why are you asking me about kos posel and not about a posel? Rabbi Yomi difti masni hochi boy minei abaye miraba kos mal shiyases chavero dochui o shirayim. Oh, so here we get to the sugya called dochui. This is a whole sugya in kodshim, and the question is, does the dam, right? He's got two different cups of the dam that needs to be applied to the mizbeach, and one of them became posel. Let's say one of them was taken out of the azara. What happens to the other dam? Like we're going to have a case later on in the Gemara about shnei seirim, and one of the two seirim became lost or died or whatever. Can he bring the other seir? So that's called the sugi of dochui. So in other words, if you apply dochui over here, that at the very moment that you needed both cups of dam and you only have one left because one of them became posel, then at that point the other kos is completely excluded. Omalei plukta de Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon v'Rabbana desanya lemalahu omers domo yishpoch ulamatu omer v'es kol domo yishpoch. So the case is the chatas of a nasi, and the pasuk says as domo yishpo. Is lamatu omer ves kol domo yishpo, and he adds the word kol. So the Brisa is pointing out that these two psukim seem to be pointing in opposite directions because the pasuk es domo yishpach implies es, only this dam, which is a mute, but the other pasuk says as kol doma, and the kol is a ribui. So now the Brisa is going to sort of reconcile these two psukim. Minayin lechatos shekibel doma bi'arba kosos. Right, he received the dam of the chatos in four different receptacles. So he took a matana from one of the receptacles and another matana that he put on the mizbeach from another receptacle. Any dam that's remaining in the other two cups is now poured on the Yisoda mizbeach. How do we know such a thing? Talmud Lomar, The es kol dama yishpach. So the kol is a ribui, and it means that any blood that's remaining is to be poured on the Yisod Mizbech. Yochel nosan arba matanos because echad you kulam nishpachim liyisod. Maybe we would think that if he gave 4 matanos on the 4 corners of the Mizbeach from one particular kos, then the other 3 kosos that have the remaining blood, they have to be poured on the Yisod Mizbeach. Talmud Lomer, the es domo. And we said that the es domo is a mute. And that mute teaches us that only some of the dam that remains should be poured on the Yisod Mizbeach. Ketzad. How do we treat this last case of some of the dam should be poured on the Yisod Mizbeach? Hu nishpach liyisod. Right, so there was one cup which was used for the matonas hadam, and if there's any blood, any dam that remains in that receptacle, that's going to be poured on the Yisod Mizbeach. Vehein, but the other 3 cups nishpachim li'alma. They're completely out of the entire complex of the Beis Hamikdash. And the reason for that is because according to this Tana, the Tanakama, the dam in the other 3 unused kosos is classified not as shirayim for the sense of, pour it on the Yisod Mizbeach, but as rejected blood. It's completely possible. Spill it out. And now the Brisa quotes an opposing view of Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Minayin lechata shekibel dom bi'arba kosos v'nosan daled matonis because echad shekulim nishpachim le'yisod. All 4 cups are poured on the Yisod Mizbeach, which means that they all really have the status of shirayim, and it's not, just shall we say, refuse or rejected dam completely. So Tanakam apparently is utilizing the concept of dichui. Dichui means it's completely rejected. It's going to be spilled out as rejected dam. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, on the other hand, holds that the Torah is telling us that even the dam in the unused cups must be poured on the Yisod Mizbeach. Then that's called shirayim. That's not called dochui. And that would answer Abai's question to Rabbah as to whether or not it's shirayim. The answer is it is shirayim according to Rabbi Lezer, but according to the Tanakama, it is dochui. And that's what Rabbah said to Abai, plugta to Rabbi Lezer, etc., and Rabbana. So Gemara now asks Kashva Ksivi Es Domu Yishpoch. Okay, Rabbi Lezer has a ribui to teach you that the other 3 kosos are shirayim and they should be poured on the Yisod Mizbeach. But what does he do with the miyut of the Es Domo Yishpoch? Now it's anything that's left in the tzavra behema, the dam hanefesh. That does not have to be poured on the Yisod Mizbeach like shirayim, but rather spill it out. It's rejected, and it doesn't have the status of shirayim. The Mishnah says, Kibel HaKosher v'nosan le'posel. So if the kosher gave the dam after he's makabel it over to a posel, the posel gives it back to him. If he received the dam with his right hand, put it in his left hand, he gets it back to his right hand in a klishares, and he poured it into the dam into a klichulin, then he puts it back into the klishares. And the basic underlying principle is that if you received the dam properly and then shifted it to a disqualified person or a disqualified place, you could return the dam to where it was and continue the avoda as if nothing happened. Utzricha, why do we need all these cases? The Yashmin impossible. If you're talking about a case that the disqualified person received the dam, I would think my posel, who would fit the description of apostle, is a Tomei de Chazi Lavodas Tzibur. That's only because in a case of Tuma Hutra B'tzibur, then if, let's say, most of the community is Tomei, then he can do the Avodah even though he's Tomei. Aval small low. There's no such thing as Avodah biyad small. It doesn't exist. So the Mishnah have to teach us that even in the case where the dam was shifted over to his left hand, the Avodah could continue. V'yashmin in small, and if I only had small, the Islay Achsher B'Yom Kippurim, there's one Avodah on Yom Kippurim in the Ketores, as we'll soon see, where the Avodah is done using the left hand. The Kohen Gadol goes into the Lifnai V'Lifnim, and he's holding the Ketores in his right hand, and he's got a shovel in his left hand. He puts the shovel onto the fire with his left hand. Yeah, he spells it out. With the shovel is in his right hand, the ladle is in his left hand. So he enters the Kodesh Kadoshim. He pours the incense into the fire until a cloud of incense rose up. So on that day of the year, Yom Kippurim, the Kohen Gadol in Lifnai V'Lifnim in the Avodas HaKetoros is using his left hand. However, Aval Kli Chol, which could never be used for Kodesh, for any Avodah, lo. So I need that Chiddush that even so, takes it from the Kli Chol and puts it back into the Kli Kodesh. V'yashmin in Kli Chol, mishum dechazi l'kitzishinu. Okay, a Kli Chol right now is Chol, but you can be Mekadesh it. And once you Mekadesh it, it's royal lavoda. Aval Hanach. But in the other two cases, Lo, right? Those two cases can never, you can never take a disqualified Kohen and make him into a qualified Kohen. You can't take the left hand and qualify it for Avoda. I would think that the dam is not valid at all. When the dam shifts from a qualified Kohen to a non-qualified, or from a klisharis to a klichol, etc., why not say that's dachui? Amalei Ravino Rav Ashi, Hachi Omar Abirmi Obidifti Mishmei Rava, Mani Chanana Mitzrihu the less leidechli. Chanana Mitzri, as we'll soon prove, does not accept the idea of dichu, and he's the author of our Mishnah. The Sanya Chanana Mitzri Omer Afilu Dam Bekos. Even if he used makabel the dam of the soyer of a chatos in a kos, and the he goat, right, was designated for Azazel, and that he goat that was designated for Azazel died, is maybe chavero umezaviglo. He just brings another he goat, if he can find one, in the marketplace to replace the dead one. And now he's got the pair of the new replacement Azazel from the bullpen together with the blood of the Azazel, of the Soyer Pnimi, the inner Chatos. And then he takes the dam of the Chatos, he applies it on the Mizbeach, and he sends the Soyer Azazel, the new replacement Azazel, to be thrown off the cliff. So Hanan here, in this brisa, considers the blood of the Chatos goat usable after the Azazel goat died, and they replace it with another Azazel goat. So obviously he rejects the principle of dichu. Rav Ashi Omar, you should know, this is not to undermine anything that we said until now, that kol shebiyodo lo havi dichu. If he has the power to change it, and it's not permanently rejected, then it's not dichu according to anybody, even those who accepted the principle of dichu, because it's biyodo l'sakno. So therefore, in the case where, there was a disqualified Kohen who had the dam, or it was in a klichol, or it was up in his left hand, now it's in all these cases, biyodo l'sakin, he can fix it up. Amar of Shaya, Kavosei the Rav Ashi Mistabra, I like the logic of Rav Ashi. Man shamet islay dechuyin, Rav Yehuda. We're going to prove from a Mishnah with regard to the Neshnei Seirim that it's Rav Yehuda who holds that if one of the two Seirim is gone, you have to get a whole new set, and that's Dichui. V'yodom Rav Yehuda nishpach adam yomos ha'mishtaleach. If the dam from the Chatos ha'pnimi was lost, it was spilled, then the one that's sent to the Azazel is also disqualified. Beis HaMishtaleach Yishafach Hadam. Shamina le, and yet Rabbi Yehuda, who accepts the principle of Dichui, Shamina le Diomar, Kol Shabiyada Lo Havi Dichui. Desanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kos Echad Hoyimamali Midam Hataroves, Vizorko, Zrika Achas Keneged HaYisod, Ishmamino Kol Shabiyada Lo Havi Dichui, Ishmami. So it's Erev Pesach, and the Kohen fills one cup with the blood of a Pesach offering, and it's intermingled on the floor of the Ritzvah Hazara. Then he throws it onto the Mizbeach. Zrika Achas Keneged Yisod, and one against the Yisod. Now the dam was not fit for mator for Messina on the Mizbech when it was on the floor, and yet Rabbi Yehuda permits the Kohen to gather it up in a cup and apply it on the Mizbech. So you see that because it's biyado, right, he can collect it. Therefore, we don't apply the principle of dichli gufa. Tanya, we learned to the brisa. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kos echad hoyim emale midama taroves. On Erev Pesach, the Kohen would fill up a cup of the korban Pesach from the dam that was intermingled on the floor of the Ritzvah Hazara and applied to the Mizbeach. Shem yishafach echad mehem nimtza shu machshiro. That just in case one of the vessels that holds the blood of the Korban Pesach would spill, it would be applied to the Mizbeach. Nimtza shu machshiro. So this application of the intermingled blood renders the Pesach offering whose blood spilled valid. There was never a kli shares. Is mino yodeh. How did the Rabbanan know that the blood on the floor never was received in a kli? El Hashem alone is kabel kli. Maybe it didn't. We don't know one way or the other whether it was received in a kli sharis or not. Omalahem. So Rabbi Yehuda responds to the Rabbanan. And here we turn to Daf Lamed Hey. Afani lo amarti el kshenis kabel b'kli. No, so how does Rabbi Yehuda know that it was this kabel kli? And now the Gemara goes into discussion about kohanim zerizim. Okay, then. So this is where we'll stop for today. Thank you very much.